We begin this broadcast with one of the most important foreign policy summits of the year in the Indo-Pacific region. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Japan for the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. Ahead of the Quad summit on Tuesday, the Indian Prime Minister arrived at Tokyo's Haneda Airport, where he was received by the Indian diaspora on arrival. The Prime Minister also interacted with the community where not just Indian but the Japanese also gathered to welcome the Indian leader.
Wow.
May I have your signature, please? May I have your signature, please?
तो कहाँ से सीख लिया तुमने हिंदी? हैं?
Yes, I learned.
हैं? बहुत अच्छा जानते हो?
Now, on the first day of his two-day Tokyo visit, Prime Minister Modi will be meeting with business community in Tokyo hours from now. And later, the Indian Prime Minister will attend the launch of Indo-Pacific Economic Framework by US President Joe Biden. There will be a business roundtable after the launch as well. Prime Minister Modi will later attend diplomatic and community interactions. While on the second day of the visit, the leaders of Japan, India, Australia and the United States will meet for the Quad summit. The leaders will exchange views about developments in the Indo-Pacific region and also review the progress of Quad initiatives. Now, the Quad members will have discussions on economic and security interests that span the Pacific and Indian Oceans, while new areas of cooperation will also be identified. The latest Quad meeting comes as Beijing is gaining a foothold in the Pacific region with its Solomon Islands Security Pact. The Quad grouping is united by its desire for a counterweight to China's expanding economic, military and technological influence. However, the member nations are divided on Ukraine. Despite differences over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the leaders of Japan, India, Australia and the United States are seeking common ground on countering China. On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Modi will also hold bilateral meetings with US President Joe Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and his Australian counterpart in the meeting. Meanwhile, in the meeting with US President Joe Biden, the leaders are expected to review the India-US strategic partnership. And these are the latest visuals when Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed in Tokyo at 4 a.m. IST today. This is also the first in-person Quad summit since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Visuals on your screen show the Indian Prime Minister arriving at Tokyo's airport, where he was received by the Indian diaspora, and he will also be interacting with the Indian community today. The Indian Prime Minister will also be holding separate bilaterals with the three Quad nations tomorrow, that is Australia, Japan and the United States. The Indian Prime Minister today will be meeting with business community in Tokyo, and he will then be meeting with the Indian community. The Quad members will have discussions on economic and security interests that span the Pacific and the Indian Oceans, while new areas of cooperation will also be identified in the Quad summit, which is scheduled to take place tomorrow. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden will also be holding bilaterals with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida today. Meanwhile, on the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Modi will also hold bilaterals with US President Joe Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and his Australian counterpart. The leaders are further expected to review the India-US strategic partnership. This is the first in-person Quad summit since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And WION's managing editor, Palki Sharma Upadhyay, is in Tokyo to get us the on-ground updates from the summit. Listen in to her exclusive.
It'll be interesting to see how India balances its convergences and divergences, as they say in diplomacy. There's a lot that goes for the Quad grouping. Like you said, energy partnership, economic partnership. But for many years, it was said that the Quad has an identity crisis. Is it the Asian NATO? Is it the Asian Red Cross? Or is it something in between? And has Quad been able to achieve any of its security goals? While a lot of water has passed under the bridge, and in the last 2 years especially, a lot of progress has been made, with this being the 4th meeting, 2 virtual meetings, and this is the 2nd in-person meeting. We had one last year in September in Washington, D.C., and now in Tokyo. So there is definitely intent, but they do not even spell out the clear security concerns, or they haven't done so yet. How will it play out this time? It remains to be seen. We understand that they are going to announce some sort of a framework where they have satellite tracking of illegal fishing in the waters in this region, and that is a direct attempt to take on China, because China is believed to be the biggest perpetrator of illegal fishing, which has threatened many traditional livelihoods and economies in the region. So that will be a message to China, certainly. Japan remains very clear on the threat posed by China to its territorial integrity. The US is very, very clear about this. The Australian government has been raising concerns about China's new deal with the Solomon Islands, and India, of course, is still logged in a border standoff with China. So all 4 countries understand and agree that this is a threat that needs to be addressed. But will they spell it out, and will they do something about it is the big question. Ukraine will certainly feature in the conversation, and that is where India will have to do a balancing act to try and ensure that the other countries do not hijack sort of the Quad agenda this time. And I think there is now a clear understanding among India's strategic partners that India is not going to join the sanctions regime against Russia.